And we'll get started.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for another opportunity, Father, to talk with a man that has lived such a rich life, Lord. One that's apparent that your hand has been all over it, Father. And we're thankful that we get to hear it from his own mouth, Father, as he shares how you have carried him this way through grace, Father. And we thank you for the book that you've blessed him to write. And Father, and just bless us as we get into the story, Father, and conversate. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. So so we get to start on your ex-wife, Essie.
Uh-huh.
Right. And it was funny because as I was reading the book, I just noticed how all of a sudden the language began to change, as you begin to talk about her. In fact, I'm going to read an excerpt from the page. Um, start is page 61, and the name of that chapter in your book is called "The Heart Knows." And
Okay.
and on that page you wrote, the green rolling hillsides had turned an undulating gold, the wild grass swaying and dancing with the breeze. Its enthusiasm contained only by railed wooden fence lines. And just that right there, I was like, man, how poetic is that? You know? And those are your actual words?
Well, there may be a little bit of change to that, but basically that's it. Yes.
Okay. And let's see, it says between the endless fence lines were dirt roads, each leading somewhere or another, one of which I was traveling, leading our mule-driven wagon. And I
Yeah,
guess this is on your way to meet Essie for the first time.
that is correct.
Okay. So do you want to tell us about how that first meeting went?
Yeah, you want me to start where it started? Or
Sure, you
just
could.
well, basically,
Uh-huh.
I think I mentioned to you on one of the sessions that we've been on
Uh-huh.
is that for the first 16 years of my life was on sharecropper's plantation.
Yes.
Okay, and by the time I was 16, mom and dad, through the leadership of the last plantation that we were on, Mrs. Rivers
Uh-huh.
Merck, uh, mom and dad had saved enough money to buy their own 60-acre piece of property that was up north of where those roads led that I was
Uh-huh.
talking about. And and so when my daddy had the house built that is on that was on the plantation, not the
Hmm.
plantation, I'm sorry, but the house built that was on that 60-acre farm,
Yeah.
which belonged to dad, and mom.
Okay.
And so the only thing that we had to use at that time was a mule driven. We had two mules
Uh-huh.
and a wagon pulled by those mules that we'd load all of our furniture into and
Hmm.
and drive up to that 60-acre farm
Hmm.
where, and this particular time, on the way up there in the wagon,
Hmm.
there was a last little hill that we went up with a little raggedy looking house that sit
Hmm.
under a couple of trees, and that's where Essie and her dad lived. And so when I got up on top of the hill, I told my sisters and brothers, I said, you know what? I am so thirsty for water, I don't know what to do.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know who live here, but I'm gonna stop and see if they give me a drink of water. And they say, can't you just wait till we get to? I said, no, I just people people will give you a drink of water. I know they would.
Yeah.
So I get out of the wagon and park the wagon right up on the hill and went to the door and knocked on the door, and Uh, and I think her daddy came first. I believe he did. So he said, "Yeah, son, what can I do for you?" I said, I'm just thirsty as I could be. I could sure use a drink of water." So he called to his daughters, "Essie, come give this boy a drink of water." And she came to the door, and that's when I first saw her. Had on a old head rag and a long looking dress like the women wore in those days. And she was only 14, but she looked like she was almost grown. She was 14 and I
Hmm.
was 16.
Hmm.
And she didn't have on, she wasn't dressed like you ever
Like
shown me
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a later picture, I'm sure.
it is. That's when she was in
Hmm.
high school.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, when she came to the door, I just took my breath. I said, "Wow, I'm gonna get married. That's gonna be my wife." So I got the drink of water, and I stood there looking at her as long as I could, drinking the water, and I just kept so I could handle the fruit jar back. I think it was
Yeah.
a mason fruit jar that she
Hmm.
gave me the water in. So I took a drink of water, and I took the last drink, and I said, "Oh man." And I handed it back. I said, "I sure appreciate this." And I went back, got in the wagon. I told my sister and my brothers that were in the wagon, I said, "That's gonna be my wife." They said, "Nigga, you crazy? Man, you don't know that girl or that woman. Yeah, how you know that ain't? How you know that ain't her husband?" I said, that she too young for that guy, way too young for that guy. I know that ain't her husband." Well, I said, "I don't care what it is, who he is, what happened, or how it's gonna happen, but that's gonna be my wife." And they said, "Oh man, come on, let's go. Get these mules going." So I clucked to the mules to get going, and they couldn't wait to get home and unload the wagon, our furniture into the house. As soon as we got in the house and got the mules unhooked from the wagon, they started telling my mom and daddy, "Your crazy son stopped up on the hill. That's why we took so long for us to get here." And talking about he gonna get married to that girl. And I said, "Y'all don't know like I know. I know that's gonna be my wife. I, I don't care what happened.
Hmm.
That's gonna be my wife." And that's how
So,
that went.
yeah. So first of all, I like to say that I believe that that thirst was divine. That was a divine given thirst that you had that caused you to stop at that house.
It had
Yeah,
to be. It had to
yeah.
be.
And so I'm gonna read how you described it in the book. You said you said I just couldn't wait. I needed a drink, and I went up to the house situated on the farm next to ours. I knocked, hurrying to dust off my trousers and straighten my clothes before somebody answered. And when the heavy wooden door swung open, there she was, beautiful like a night sky full of stars. She had a white head headscarf, which I suppose kept her hair out of her face, and her long plaid cotton full length dress modestly draped her figure. Her skin was dark bronze, her inviting eyes were translucent brown, and her smile was warm but suspiciously shy. Uh-huh. And yet, yes, she said, like sweet like the song of a white-crowned sparrow, happy that the sun had just risen. Can I help you? And so, I mean, it was just amazing how you wrote that. And then later on, you, her father, he comes and he says, "Get this young man a tall glass of water, Essie." He commanded in a loving but deep voice. And you said, "Essie." It was the first time I heard her name, and it resonated through my bones, all the way down to my toes and back again.
And that That is absolutely the way it felt.
Okay. Wow.
Absolutely the way it felt.
Hmm. Wow. So yes, and yeah, you said she was pretty, and one of your brothers and sisters said too pretty for you, and then you said,
They
I,
did.
"I'm gonna marry that girl one day. I'm gonna marry that Essie."
That
So
is exactly that is exactly what I said to him.
yeah.
And
So
then they kept saying, "You crazy man, drive the wagon.
uh-huh.
If you ain't gonna drive the wagon, get out and then we'll drive it."
Okay. So tell us, how was it that you and her ended up in the same school? Because listening to the way you described it in the book, there were a couple of gentlemen, Mr. Armour and Mr. Poole, who were kind of figuring out a way to get kids educated in Tennessee instead of in Mississippi.
Uh, the Mississippi,
Hmm.
that part of Mississippi where I lived
Hmm.
and where my daddy bought his house was about, I would say, 8 or 10 miles from the Tennessee line.
Okay.
But there were no other school beyond the eighth grade in our area. And the school that we had in our area where Essie lived and where my dad and mom lived was called the New Halliburton School. And that was right back of a church and back of a little graveyard is
Hmm.
where the New Halliburton School was located. Well, Essie was a grade ahead of me.
Okay.
She and my older sister.
Hmm.
And so let's see, I think when I moved there, Essie was in her last grade, and I think I must have been in the seventh grade or something like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that's why I got a chance to meet her while she was still in the New Halliburton School.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Armour was the principal of the Collierville Junior High School in Collierville, Tennessee,
I see.
which was again about that 8 or 10 miles
Hmm.
away from where we live.
Hmm.
So what Mr. Armour and Mr. George Poole was the principal of the little eighth grade school.
Hmm.
He and his sister,
Okay.
her name was Mattie Poole,
Right. Hmm.
and and uh, so they got together
Hmm.
and they figured out a way to get a Tennessee address for the kids that looked like they were going to do something, looked
Hmm.
like they could go on to school and become, uh, uh, you know, go on to high school.
Hmm.
And then what they would do is they would get you a Tennessee address. And when you got so they went from 10th, let's see, 10th, uh, ninth and 10th grade
Uh-huh.
at that school.
Yeah.
And then that gave you a Tennessee address where you could go from there now to Memphis, which was
Hmm.
about 20 something miles away to Memphis to Rose. Let's see, there was several schools closer. One of them was named, uh, gosh, dog it, I can't think of the name of the school,
Uh,
but it was there in Memphis. So Essie and my sister had gone on to Collierwood Junior High School. And the following year,
mhm.
now then I had graduated to the eighth grade.
Yeah.
So when I went to the eighth grade, I mean, finished the eighth grade, now he got me the same Tennessee address that he
Uh-huh.
got for my sister.
Okay.
Mr. Armour did.
I see.
and they would come together on that line so that they
Uh-huh.
could get their schools for us to go to further 10th, ninth and 10th grade.
Which,
So there,
which uh-huh. I think that was a noble thing they were doing
it was
because
a
they were
noble thing.
they were taking kids who they saw potential in, who
That's
kids who
right.
were excited about school and
That is
figuring
correct.
out a way to get them educated past the eighth grade because Mississippi didn't allow past the eighth grade. Am I
That
correct?
is good. That is absolutely correct.
Okay. Wow. Yes, that
So
go ahead, sir.
so when I got to when I got to the junior high school, that's where I got a chance to get back with in the presence of Essie again, and of course Essie went to the same church I did. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if I put that in the book or not, but she went to the same church that I did, which was the New Halliburton Church,
Okay.
and she sung in the choir, and we both got into the young people stuff at the church, and
Uh-huh.
I was still watching and keeping my eyes on her,
Uh-huh.
but she kept telling me, I have a boyfriend. And anyway, that's how that went. I don't know if you want me to go into the rest of that or not.
Uh, we'll talk a little bit about her history. You said her mother passed away when she was 3 years old.
When she was 3 years old,
Uh-huh.
and of course she had, let's see, she had, there's Whitney, a sister, a Lee, and then uh, her next brother, Mr. Brooks, I think he had five. I think he had five kids, and
Wow.
she
Uh-huh.
and she was 12 years younger than any of the rest of the kids.
Wow.
Yeah,
So she was the baby.
she was a baby,
Okay. Okay.
and and he was of course crazy about his baby daughter,
Yeah.
and so that's how that went.
Uh-huh. And you think that had something to do with her reluctance in dating you?
Well, I think her reluctance in dating me, uh, I was just didn't, just didn't seem like the kind of guy she wanted, and she
Uh-huh.
was looking at another boy,
Uh-huh.
whose daddy, whose was his daddy? I think his daddy was a funeral home owner
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
there in Kaiba High School.
Yeah.
Chester, guy's name Chester Jean, I think his name
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
was the guy, and of course him being well off, he could kind of get his son whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And he drove, after he got old enough to drive, he had the big Buick, long Buick,
Uh-huh.
kept it, and he kept it shiny and looking good. And of
Uh-huh.
course, that,
Right.
attracted the girls.
Yeah.
And it particularly attracted Essie.
Uh-huh.
But Mr. Brooks would find something wrong with every boy that she came up with
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he didn't want nobody else looking at his daughter but
Uh-huh.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think that was?
Well, first of all, his place, he owned 60 acres right next to my dad's 60 acres.
I got you.
And we lived up on the hill and we was known as the big,
Yeah. This is I know.
yeah.
Uh,
And so that's who he wanted her to look at
okay.
because our family was the big shot family up on the hill.
Uh-huh.
And so every boy she come up with, it was something wrong with him.
Yeah.
And Mr. Brooks, I don't know if he ever said, "Hey, this is the boy you ought to be looking at or not." I don't know if he ever said that or not, but he really adored me.
Uh-huh. Well,
Uh,
I understand why Essie had her pick is because she was quite a looker. She was a very
she was.
good looking sister,
Ain't
and
no doubt in my mind. Yes.
yes. And so And so you said her father. You believe it was her father that came up with this ploy that
It
caused her
was.
to break up
It
with her
was.
boyfriend. And
Absolutely.
tell us about that.
Well, uh, uh, I think he says that boy is your cousin or something. He come up with that. That was your cousin, and then there was another guy she was looking at, and he said, "Oh, you don't want him because his daddy is ain't no good," and so forth and so on. So every boy that she found that she wanted,
Uh,
he would find something wrong with him. And I don't know what he could find wrong with Charlie because Charlie was absolutely a good-looking brother himself.
uh-huh.
He was a nice-looking guy. Well,
Yeah,
there's Miss Essie again.
yeah.
And so there's that little strange-looking guy with that little tooped-up hair, and she was a good-looking sister herself. And but I never gave up, not one time, not one time. I never thought. She kept telling me about who she had, and I kept saying, "That's okay. Go right ahead. Go
Uh,
right ahead. No problem. I'll wait until you get through.
see,
But
right.
you are my wife."
Uh-huh. And so
And she,
she always knew you were excited about her, right?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And she would tell me, she just give a little solid smile, and if I was close enough to her, she touched me or something like that and said, "Oh, there's plenty of girls out there for you," and something like that, and leave it, let it just roll on. But
Yeah.
I wasn't joking.
Yeah.
I
We
wasn't
see.
joking at all. I wasn't
As
giving up no kind of way. I said, well,
as
when time comes, we're gonna get married.
that's right. Yeah, we shall soon find out how persistent you were. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So let's move on. Let's see. So one of the things you wrote in the book, you said time, persistence, and patience are the
Yes.
better choices.
Yes.
And of course, you had to kind of endure that because she basically was really not showing you much interest.
Not at all.
Hmm.
Not at all. In fact, I used to, when I got up to the junior high school where she was at Collierwood Junior High School, they had
Uh-huh.
a nice little lunch stand, and I'd be done worked up, saved my little dollar, my little nickels and dimes and quarters and stuff like that, so
Uh-huh.
that I could buy ice cream. So I when we were playing, the boys would play softball and all that, or baseball, and I would try to get her to keep my money. Why don't you keep my money for me while
Uh,
while I'm playing ball so I won't lose it? Well, she would go ahead and do that. She'd just be kind to me and do that. And but I'm still looking at every little way I could make connection that I could. But I
yeah,
never, absolutely never gave up. I just knew that was going to be my wife.
yeah, yeah. You said early on that Essie's denial broke your heart. You said, but what could you do? And then you said the draft was on for the Korean War, and the army had come calling. So your pursuit of Essie would have to wait until you returned, if
Right.
you returned. Yes.
That is correct.
Yeah. So
She,
what? Uh-huh. Go ahead.
she, I wanted, after I could tell that I was wearing her down to the point
Mm-hmm.
to where she was kind of paying a little bit of attention to me,
Uh-huh.
and my sisters and brother kept saying, "Oh man, you she got your nose open." And I don't know if I wrote that in the book or not, but she got your nose open. I don't know if you've ever heard that term or not.
I have. I have.
But she got your nose open. That girl ain't paying no attention to you. I said, you can say that if you want to, but
Uh-huh.
I, I'm on my way somewhere.
Yeah.
So on August, I think it was August the 6th,
Uh-huh.
1953,
Yeah.
the Army called for me to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to
Uh-huh.
get suited up to do my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Uh,
And I wanted to get married then, even though she was let's see, I would have been then 19,
uh-huh.
and she would have been, of course, 17.
Okay.
And she said, "No, why don't you just wait till you get back?"
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm saying, how do I know I'm gonna get back?
Yeah.
And I want to be married to you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I said, just if I get married, if we get married and something happened to me and I die while I'm over there, at least
Hmm.
there'll be money for you to keep your life going and do whatever.
Get you.
But
Yeah.
I would know I'd have a real strong reason to want to get back because I will have a wife back here.
Yeah. Can you
But
tell us, can you tell us how your enlistment got delayed for a year? Because that almost feels like the hand of God working again.
well, I was on the farm, and that in those days during the Korean War, and the Korean War, by the time I got in 1953, was
Uh-huh.
just about over,
Okay.
but it still had cleanup to be done and so forth.
Hmm.
So my daddy got one of the doctors there in Bahia and in Olive Branch to write a letter to let the government know that I was helping to raise cotton and corn and food that could go to the military to help
See.
him. So they delayed my calling for 1 year. But
Okay.
I still ended up going August the
Hmm.
6th, 1953, uh,
Uh-huh.
to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Actually, they took me to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then the first time I ever rode an airplane, very first time, they put me on a plane and sent me to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and that's where they put on all the military clothes, your boots and duffel bags and all the stuff, the weaponry and all that you come back and then you get trained at Fort Leonard Wood and from there to Korea,
Okay. Okay.
South Korea. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
that's how that all came about.
so were you in Fort Jackson in South Carolina?
No, no. I was in
Okay.
I was I was in Fort Leonard Wood,
Okay.
Missouri. I was
Okay.
in Fort Jackson, South
Uh-huh.
Carolina is where they suited you up.
Oh, I see.
They sent me there
Hmm.
and suited me up with all. I don't know why they sent me all the way there. A whole bunch of us troops on an
Uh-huh.
airplane, sent us to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Get our outfits and uniforms and everything, then bring us back and put us in. And we had to do 8 weeks of basic training
Hmm.
where you learn to shoot your weapon and you learn how to use a bayonet
Hmm.
and uh, uh, that was I think probably one of the first. That's called a Class A uniform right
Uh-huh.
there. That's a
Yeah.
Class A uniform. I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I don't know if I have anything in there or not that have to do with the fatigue uniform.
Uh, no, I didn't see anything. Not up to this point. No, I haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was one where I was over. Where was I? I was on Okinawa
Hmm.
when I was standing at this place where I was a chaplain assistant.
I think I got some pictures of
Yeah, that's
like
that that.
this right here.
Hey, yeah,
This is it.
wow, hot dog. That's the one. That's the
Okay.
one that's in Fort Leonard, not Fort Leonard Wood. This
Hmm.
was in um,
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when I was a chaplain assistant and somebody took my picture and I kept it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we kind of get a glimpse of what's starting to wear Essie down is this you turning into a strapping young handsome guy, that's what's wearing her down,
I don't, I think that kind of got to her too. But
Okay,
and
okay.
also the main support was her
Uh-huh.
daddy. Her
Okay.
daddy, her daddy thought I was man. When I'd
Okay.
come home, when I'd come home wearing my uniform, and he would sit there and talk, he would talk to me probably half the time that I'm supposed to be talking to her.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just, boy, you sure grew into a fine young man.
Uh-huh.
And what is the army like? What is this and what is
Uh-huh.
that? And he would talk to me all the time about that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Captain Greene and the effect he had on you.
Oh, okay. Now let's move over to Captain Greene. And uh, first of all, the 16 weeks of training was
Uh-huh.
broken up into two 8-week sessions.
Okay.
The first one had to do with your weapons. And in fact, one of the scariest times of my life was they had a wire that you had to get on your belly and crawl under that wire through the mud and the water and everything. And they will fire at night tracer 50 caliber machine gun, and you could see the fire from those bullets go over your head. That was really, really scary, but we had to go through it. Anyway, we finished the first 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little old black colonel, not a colonel, a sergeant, Corporal Hosley. I never will forget it. And he was a mean little sapsucker. I be
Mm-hmm.
done shine my boots, and I had my boots shining like glass. And he looked, and his little head didn't come no further than right up to my chin.
Mm-hmm.
And that monkey would take his boots, his dirty boots, and mess up my boots and tell me go shine them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hated him with a passion. But anyway, I said, when I get out of here, I'm gonna show him some. I'm gonna beat his so and so till he can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when when we graduated, I ain't seen him no more. I don't know where
Yeah.
he went.
He was hiding.
Now, now, now we had to go to the second 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the second 8 weeks, there was no platoon sergeant to take us through the second 8 weeks.
Let's see.
Captain Greene, white guy, uh, took us out one day, and the long story made short, and he had us all out there and marched us around, brought the platoon up, stood us up in front of him, and he says, "All right, we ain't got no platoon sergeant." And by the way, there was only two blacks, two blacks in my whole company C, I think I was in. Uh, there was only two of us black. So when he got us parked. He said, "Now one of you all gonna be the platoon sergeant." And then he called me out and says, "Hearns, fall out." And fall out means get out of the rank. I hopped out of the rank, shot him off a salute, and he said, "All right, I want you to take these troops. I want you to march them all the way around this compound, which was a football field. I want you to march them around this football field and bring them back and park them right here."
Mm-hmm.
And I had that hog calling, cow calling voice, and I could holler, "Herb, Herb, hot, ho, ho." Man, I could, and I thought he was still waiting for me to get back, and dust flying everywhere. And just happened to look back over my shoulder, and that little dude was walking right behind me in the dust, listening to me call Cadence.
Mm-hmm.
Brought him back and parked him, and he told the first sergeant, bring me the first sergeant stripes. And they put an armband on me with sergeant stripes on it. And he says, you're going to lead these guys through the next 8 weeks.
Mm.
Well, there wasn't nothing in there but 2 black dudes, me and that other guy,
Mm.
and the rest was white.
Right.
So I ain't never been in charge of no white folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just knowing that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because them white boys ain't gonna be listening to me.
Right.
So soon as he dismissed us, I went and knocked on his door and asked him, could I talk to him? Yeah, I thought we just left a few minutes ago, and I thought I gave you your orders. I said, yes, sir, you did. But sir, I'm a little concerned because I don't think these white boys are going to want to listen to me. He said, who is the captain of this company? I said, you are, sir. And who do you answer to? I said, you, sir. And who do they answer to? I said, you, sir. He said, so anybody who disobeys you disobeys me, and all you got to do is let me know. I'll handle it. And shucks, I went back out that next day, took over the troop, and I was nice to them, and them guys never gave me a minute's problem at all. I never had any problem with giving them their passes to go on leave, those who could go on leave and so forth. And everything went just fine.
Okay.
Had no problem with them at all.
So then he pretty much elevates your rank, at least just for training, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
Uh-huh.
That is correct.
And so you were master sergeant as it was?
As Master Sergeant,
Okay.
but not the Chief Master Sergeant, but Master Sergeant.
Okay. All right.
Uh-huh.
So,
And
uh-huh.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna mention the fact, but they never gave me a bit of trouble. They act just like I was a real sergeant.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about going AWOL.
Uh-oh.
I thought that was a very interesting part of the story, you know.
Let me tell you, I think about that even the days, and this of course was 60 plus years ago. And so now it's time for us to graduate from that second 8 weeks of training.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were getting ready to go overseas.
Uh-huh.
So I asked for a leave to go home back to Memphis and got on the bus, went back to Memphis. And instead of my 3 days that they gave me, I stayed an extra day with Essie.
Uh-huh.
So that made me AWOL because I was gone longer than what I was given permission to go.
Yeah.
So I thought, sure, by the time I get back to 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 uh, uh, to the base
Uh-huh.
at Fort Leonard Wood, that they would probably have my name at the gate and lock me up right away. I thought they would do,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody said a word.
Mm.
And when I got back to my barracks,
Uh-huh.
met with the second lieutenant who was in charge of our barracks,
Uh-huh.
and he said, "Hearns, what happened to you? Your bus broke down?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Yes, it did." I
Mm.
said, "No, sir, my bus did not break down. I knew that I was getting ready. I know that I won't be going back home. I know that I was going to be going overseas, and I knew I would be going to career. And I spent an extra day with my girlfriend and my family."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, you need to give the old man," he called Captain Greene the old man, "you need to give the old man something because he likes you like as if you were his son. He really likes you. And if you tell him your bus broke down, he'll take that and use it, and he won't do nothing to you. I said, yes, sir, but I'd be lying. And my mama told me never to lie, no matter what it cost me, never to lie, no matter what.
Yeah.
He said, well, it's your A, so you go ahead on and tell him what you want. It's your A, but you ought to have good sense enough to know that the man want to help you, and you need to let him help you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, sir. So he said, all right, hold on. I'll get his attention and get you in there. So
Mm-hmm.
he goes and tell him I'm out there. He tells me to come on in. And when I come on in, he's sitting there writing, doing something on paper. And he never even looked up. And while he was still with his head down, writing on that paper, he said, sit down, son, without even looking up. I didn't know what the heck to do because he hadn't received my salute or nothing. Just said, sit down, son. And then when he got through, he put his hand behind his head like that, and he said, son, and now this is getting next to me because I could see his heart was reaching out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to cry so bad, but I just feel like I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, son, what happened? I said, uh, he said, your bus or something broke down? I said, no, sir, it didn't. I was with my girlfriend, and I wanted to spend an extra day with her before I go overseas. He says, all right, what do you think I ought to do to you? I said, I know that I deserve to go to get an Article 15. I know that you could put me in the stockade, and any of those that you do, it'll be just fine. He said, no, I ain't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I do? I said, well, I the rest of the time I'm here, I could pull KP and wash the dishes every day and clean the barracks and whatever. He said, no, I ain't gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, well, what else? I said, well, sir, I now I was stumbling trying to figure out because I didn't know nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, all right, hold on. And he looked back like that and said, Sergeant, bring me those Master Sergeant stripes that goes on her. Man, you could have bought me for a penny and had change left. That was so heartbreaking to see this guy coming up, gonna put them stripes back on me and not do nothing to me, and then said, son, sit down without even looking up, then put his hand behind there and said, why would you do that to me? How in the world am I gonna answer to that?
Mm-hmm.
And he's white and I'm black. He's supposed to do something to me because I'm black.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He put them stripes back on. He said, for the rest of the time you're here, I want I want you to finish up, and I want a first place out of company C. And that is exactly what happened. And then when I got ready to leave, I never will forget it. He had all of us lined up and getting ready to send us. I don't think I even wrote that in the book. But when we all graduated at the end of the thing, he called me up and made kind of somewhat of a spectacle of me by saying, here's the guy who brought all of you through to get the good grades that you did. And Hearns, you are on your way, son. You are a born leader. And everybody heard him. And just these two black guys, me and this other guy, were the only black guys there. And off we went to Korea from that point on.
So that
But
was a
he just treated, I ain't never been treated better in my life
yeah,
than Captain Greene treated me.
yeah. That's one of those pivotal moments in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, he was affirming you. He actually kind of showed you the kind of grace that God shows us.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes, man.
Yeah, so that really, man, that was something. I have a story of my own, which doesn't even really compare to yours, but I kind of understand where I knew I had made a mistake when I was actually under Bishop Darrensburg, lost the keys to the church that he had given me, and when I went back, I was expecting, to be demoted or set down or whatever, and he said, well, he simply said, "We'll just get you another set of keys." And I
Wow.
walked out of there thinking, hey, and it kind of it did something for me as a young
Yeah,
man trying to find my way.
absolutely.
It did something for me. So to a certain degree, I could relate to what Captain Greene and who he was for you. You know,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
yeah,
will never forget that to my grave. I will not forget. And I
yeah,
don't know, and I'm sure because I was like 19 and coming up on 20, but turned 20 I think after I got overseas. But I, I, I think about that and say, what in the world was that if it was not God?
hmm,
God had to
yes,
be in that brother somehow to get him to turn that way to one black guy he had in his platoon.
yeah, yeah. A big part of that story though was your refusal to compromise.
Absolutely.
That was a big part of that story because you could have easily went for the lie,
Absolutely.
and nobody would have ever held it against you, or but
Yeah.
the fact that you held to that, and remember, you were remembering something your mom had told you.
Yes.
It kind of reminded me of Joseph when he was in Potiphar's house and the woman is throwing herself at him, and he's like, I can't do this.
No,
And
sir.
look at how God blessed him. And so I see the similar
Absolutely.
thing in you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So do you have 10 more minutes, Bishop, or I
We
don't
we
want to hold you?
we, we can handle it. I think 10 more minutes.
Okay. So I do want to talk about the standoff on the bus because there was
Oh,
a moment where I thought, oh, this is it. This is the end. Where you guys are on the bus and somebody comes and wants you to get up and move to the back, and tell us how that went down.
okay. That's backing me up to when I was still in Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
I was still in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And one of the times that I had a pass to go back to Memphis, when they drive off, the bus pick you up on the base and drive to a little town there in Missouri called Springfield, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a place where it pull off the road, and the driver then would stand up and said, "All right, all of the colored soldiers go to the back."
Mm-hmm.
And this particular time, if I remember correctly, I was the only black dude on there. And when we were getting on the bus, the white boys beat me on the bus and they filled up from the back to the front. And I was sitting on the second seat
Mm-hmm.
from the front
Mm-hmm.
next to the window. Uh, and there was a big old white boy that was sitting on the aisle seat.
Uh-huh.
So when he pulled off, and it wasn't but one black dude on there, and that was me. And then he got up, pulled over, and said, "All right, all of the colored soldiers go to the back." Well, wasn't but one colored soldier on there, and that was me.
Okay. So,
And I knew what he meant,
mm-hmm.
so I didn't give him no argument or nothing. In fact, I didn't even know if there would be a seat in the back
Uh-huh.
because the bus would seem to be full.
Yeah.
So I leaned over to get up. And as I started to get up, that big white fella that was sitting next to the aisle seat bumped me and knocked me back in my seat. He said, "Like hell, you ain't going nowhere." He said, "Hey, you better get to driving." He said, "I said, well, I'm the bus driver, and I said he moved." And when he said that, all the rest of them heard that. And another white boy in the back stood up and he said, "Hey, MF, you need to get to driving. And if you don't get up and get to driving, we'll get out of this bus and turn this mother over. And then you all of us will be walking.
Wow.
And now you going to drive or we going to turn this mother over?" And all of the white soldiers on there, every last one of them stood up. And he got back in that seat. He ain't said another word from there to Memphis. And I
Hmm.
rode all the way to Memphis in the second seat from the front.
Wow.
And 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 those white guys laughed at him all the way there. So we
Man,
made that mother move, didn't we?
you know what? That story was so much better being told than it was to be read. So I appreciate you telling it. You know, that's great. And this all happened before Rosa Parks.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So yeah. I, what did you think about that when it happened with Rosa Parks?
When she would not give up her
Uh-huh.
seat,
Yeah.
I was, let's see, I'm trying to think of where the heck was I. I must have been in college because I had gone overseas
Mhm.
and back, and at the time married, just trying to figure out where I was at that time. But
Mhm.
anyway, what happened? What I thought about it, of course, was uh, it took a real woman, a real God-fearing woman who was not afraid of being punished to take that stand and not allow it to frighten her. And so my feeling about it was that is the thing that all of us Black people needed to do, is to reach a point in our lives to where we are not fearful,
Mhm.
not being belligerent, but being careful and being steadfast about standing up for what is right,
Mhm.
even with a smile. And even like Dr. King said later on, as you might remember, some of the things that he said when they bombed his house, and all the people gathered up and got their weapons, and he said, "Oh, you all cannot do this. Go home. Go home.
Mhm.
This is it's all right. God's gonna provide for us."
Yeah.
And so I thought Rosa Parks, on her own, a little seamstress woman, had showed us the pathway as to how that we need to act to come out from under where we were.
I'm going to read what you said about her in your book. You said
Okay.
you said that this happened on December 1st, 1955, on a commuter bus in Montgomery, Alabama. A woman would become the new face of the civil rights when she refused to give up her seat to
Yes,
a white
yes,
passenger. And you said that, and later on, when you became the mayor of Lancaster, California, you had the pleasure of meeting her.
I did.
Yeah, and you said, what a wonderful woman. She suffered many hardships for her act of defiance, including arrest and the loss of her job. But Rosa Parks pressed on. In the end, she inspired more than her own race. She inspired an entire nation.
Hallelujah. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
sir. No doubt in my mind. That was
So,
that was that was, I believe, the turn. Of course, that stirred up Martin and stirred up all the rest of those who were in the business of making things correct.
right.
And we had her. I see. I think that was. I forgot how why we had her in. I think we had her in Lancaster for some holiday, and I can't
Uh,
remember what it was. But it
Was it
was
the was it the establishment of Martin Luther King holiday? or no?
It might have been that. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that it had something to do with it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you ended the chapter like this. You said, "This chapter reminds me that though there are people who would curse us or hurt us, so too are those who want to love us and help us." And even that story you shared about the bus and how all those white soldiers stood up for you, you know, and you said the problem is that sometimes we cannot accept the loving grace being offered by some because our hands are full of holding on to the past hurt. So and then you said we've got to go to the cross, kneel, and willingly lay our hurts at Jesus's bloody feet. Only then will we be able to rise and grasp the grace we want and need so desperately. It is this grace that God, through his children,
Yes.
holds out to us continuously. And sometimes
Uh,
those children happen to be white.
Sometimes those children need to be hired. And now this is have nothing at all to do with what I'm about to say right now. That was no longer than last night.
Uh-huh.
And see, today is Wednesday, Thursday,
Uh-huh.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Uh-huh.
Well, the other Tuesday night, last night,
Mm-hmm.
I was at one of the white pastors, Pastor Sean Appleton,
Uh-huh.
out there on 60th Street West and
Uh-huh.
Avenue J8.
Okay.
And I was with him and about 8 or 10 of his young white uh, uh, parishioners.
Okay.
And he wanted me to sit down with this book, my
Uh,
book, in
uh-huh.
my hand and walk them through some of the things that happened to me that I even wrote about.
Yes.
And I shared that with them last night, and you could see the tears in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And when this was all over last night, they all got together and we prayed that the goodness of God would come into all of our hearts, including some of us black people who are
Uh-huh.
still holding on to the ugliness,
Yes.
to turn it loose and let it go. Because what
Yes.
has already happened,
Yes.
and it cannot be unhappen.
Yes.
And that was
Yes.
just last night, this
Yes,
past
sir.
night, last night.
And you know what, Bishop? Even though your book talks a lot about the past, I think it's so needed for today.
Thank you
And
so much.
that's why it had that effect on those men because right, especially now with what's going on in America, we need to hear about what happened with you, and how you gracefully got through all of it,
Yeah.
you know. And
And
so
that's
go
what
ahead.
Pastor Sean Appleton and he said to his men last night, I wanted you guys to meet Henry because he and I have been friends for some 25 or 30 years now, a while since I've been pastoring, and he has been a kind of guy that no longer is he black in my eyes,
Uh,
no longer is he white in my eyes. He's just a brother.
That's it. There you go.
He's
There
just
you
a
go.
brother.
All right, Bishop, that's a good note to end on. And
Thank you
it's
so
it's
much.
it's always a joy to talk to you. And I want to encourage my audience to get the book, How Odds Even Through Grace. Go to BishopHenryHearns.com and get that book. And you know, yes, and then I'm looking forward to our next conversation, sir.
I'm looking forward to it too.
All right.
Uh,
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right.
Bye
Bye.
now.